Circle, the company behind USDC, just announced CIR BTC, a token tied to Bitcoin. I'll get into that in a second. We're also going to talk about the Ethereum Foundation stacking a lot of Ether. We're also going to talk about Algorand pumping. I'm going to tell you about Hyperliquid, Polymarket, Iran, and a lot of other news. Hello, everyone, and welcome to CryptoRed, the crypto news channel. BTC is at $66,000. Ethereum is around $2,000. The market as a whole is down today. And you know what? Let's start with Iran, because that's clearly one of the big macro stories right now. What's happening is that Donald Trump is threatening Iranian infrastructures, roads, bridges, and so on if the Strait of Hormuz is not reopened. And more importantly, a US aircraft was reportedly shut down in Iran. 2 pilots are being searched for, and apparently there is a rescue mission right now, so trying to recover them. And this is exactly what shows you that as long as the war is not over, a lot of things can still happen. There can be escalation. There can be much longer conflicts. There can be much more serious development. And this is what could keep oil prices elevated. And as this video from the Kobayashi later shows, there's at least a very strong correlation between oil prices, shown in blue, and inflation in the United States, shown in red. When oil goes up, broad inflation tends to go up as well. And that is something that could hit very soon, because as you know, oil absolutely exploded because of the war with Iran. We moved above $100. Oil has gone up sharply, but inflation has not followed yet, not for now. But if this continues, then clearly there's going to be an impact, and it could be pretty dramatic. The Fed, for example, could end up raising rates again, and then we could be looking at a more prolonged bear market for risk assets, equities, crypto, and everything else. So yeah, this is something that could have a major impact. Let's hope this war ends quickly. Still on the topic of oil, Polymarket just announced the ability to offer a form of oil trading through PETH. PETH, as you know, is a very powerful oracle that can pull in a lot of real-world data, and that is what they're going to use here. Technically, it's not trading in pure sense. It's more prediction market, of course, but if people are betting on the price of oil by tomorrow, or whether it will be above or below a certain level, those are the kinds of things that can now be done and that really resemble trading. I call it trading because this type of platform is getting closer and closer to trading platforms. When people are making bets on Polymarket about the price of BTC in 15 minutes, that is trading. The people who are best at that kind of betting are basically the best traders. So what you're seeing is prediction markets moving closer to trading platforms, while at the same time, Hyperliquid, which is a trading platform, is moving closer to prediction market with HIP4, which is currently in testing. They opened up to security researcher. They launched the bug bounty on the test net of HIP4, and that means it should be coming soon. I'm guessing maybe by the start of the World Cup, it could be live on Hyperliquid. And then we could get something like a Polymarket clone built on Hyperliquid. And beyond that, lots of other projects could launch on Hyperliquid as well, including option products, even if that's not exactly the same thing as prediction market, but you can see where this is going. What's happening around Hyperliquid right now is pretty massive. I already made a video about the subject, so I'm not going to go deep into this again. Well, no, you know what? Actually, sorry, one more thing on Hyperliquid. SushiSwap just announced an integration with Hyperliquid. Basically, they're offering perpetual trading directly in Sushi, thanks to Hyperliquid's infrastructure. This is something that had already been rolled out on Phantom, on Rabi, on MetaMask, and now Sushi is doing the same thing directly inside its own app. Why are they doing it? Because if they can generate volume, then part of the fees goes to Sushi. And of course, this is also positive for Hyperliquid because it generates even more volume for them. When I tell you that Hyperliquid is real infrastructure, this is exactly the kind of thing I mean. You have projects building on top of Hyperliquid. This is not really something you see in the same way with platforms like Lighter, Aster, or Drift. So again, Hyperliquid is increasingly becoming a real trading infrastructure layer, and I think that matters a lot. Now let's talk about drifts. I mentioned the drift hack yesterday. According to Elliptic, $285 million was stolen, and it was stolen by North Korea. Their analysis is based on the laundering patterns used after the exploit. Again, it's still, I don't know, let's say like it's just an assessment, not it's not certainty, but it would not be surprising at all. Very often, North Korea is linked to the biggest hacks, especially the ones that are not directly smart contract hacks. I'm thinking in particular of the Safe hack, where $1.4 billion was stolen after a direct compromise of the Safe website. They waited until a very large wallet came through. The large wallet was Bybit, and $1.4 billion in it was stolen from Bybit. So yeah, when you look at that kind of attack pattern, it would not be shocking at all if North Korea were once again involved here. Then you have Riot Platforms, the US mining company, which reportedly sold $280 million worth of Bitcoin during the first quarter of the year. That represents close to 4,000 BTC. At the end of the quarter, they still held 15,000 BTC, so they still have plenty. But it does show you once again that another mining company is selling BTC. And Riot too has started shifting partly towards AI and away from pure Bitcoin mining, because AI can bring more recurring revenue with contracts that can potentially run over longer periods, over years, and be more predictable. Whereas Bitcoin mining is much more volatile. For many companies, that volatility is obviously a real issue. One crypto that has done very well lately is Algorand. Over one month, Algorand is up 37%. That happened after Google's announcement and after the paper Google published on quantum computing. I talked about that on Tuesday, I believe. And honestly, what's happening around quantum computing is pretty concerning. One of the cryptocurrencies mentioned in Google's paper was Algorand, because it has already implemented a number of protection against quantum risk, or at least the measures designed to protect against the kind of risk are implemented. And Algorand benefits from that, and so the token pumped. Now, of course, we are still extremely far below Algorand's historical highs. If you look back at 2021, where we were from memory, I believe it was around $2. Yeah. In September 2021, Algorand was roughly $2.3, and now we're at $0.12. So yeah, we are still massively down. It's a huge drop. The project itself was built by a very well-known founder. The founder of Algorand received the Turing Award, which is basically the equivalent of the Nobel Prize in computer science. So this is someone extremely respected, but despite that, the project has still struggled a lot in recent years. And yes, the quantum angle can help them, obviously, but they still need to bring in users, they still need to bring developers, and they still need to build a real ecosystem. They cannot rely on the post-quantum narrative alone. It's great that they have put those protections in place, but for me that is not enough on its own to revive the blockchain over the long term. Next, let's talk about the protocol X402. X402, the payment protocol tied to the old 402 payment required code, the HTTP status code. This status code existed since the early days of the internet, but was never really used. The idea was that it could become a native internet payment protocol, but that vision actually never materialized. And now Coinbase has brought this error code back, and the protocol, which is named, like I said, X402. And the big news is that they have moved the whole payment protocol, which is supposed to be useful for AI agent, for example. They moved it under the Linux Foundation. And that is a very good thing, because this foundation can bring support from many other companies, and most importantly, it is neutral. The foundation is not Coinbase, it's not the company. Initially, the protocol was backed by Coinbase and Stripe, but now the Linux Foundation take it over, and it become much more credible for other companies and projects to build on top of it, because they would probably have been more hesitant if it had remained directly under Coinbase or Stripe. So I think it is a good move from this foundation. This foundation is not going to keep pushing and developing the protocol, and it is generally interesting for crypto payments made by AI agent, or even by people directly inside the browser for microtransaction, for example. I have not had the chance to use it yet, so I cannot tell you how deeply integrated it is with the different apps, but I think it's a good idea. Then let's talk about the Ethereum Foundation. They just announced that they had reached 70,000 ETH staked. They added another $93 million, so they are now at around $140 million of ETH staked. They still have a bit more than half of that is not staked, But yeah, it is still good to see them staking. Historically, what has the Ethereum Foundation done is they only sold ETH little by little, and they still do. But it is smarter to stake and try to sell as little as possible, because when you stake, you generate yield, and that yield can be sold without reducing the amount of crypto you hold. So I think that is a good thing, and it's also good to see the foundation starting to promote staking more openly. They have also started putting capital into decentralized finance protocols. They deployed money into Morpho and onto a number of other protocols, and into Aave as well, if I remember correctly. So I think that the Ethereum Foundation is doing what the Ethereum Foundation is doing right now is good. And honestly, seeing the foundation go out and seek yield in DeFi as well, I find that very interesting. And finally, as I told you, Circle, the company behind USDC, which is the second largest dollar stablecoin in crypto and one of the biggest stablecoin in the world, they just announced CIR BTC. CIR BTC is a representation of Bitcoin, a bit like WBTC or Coinbase CBBTC, except CIR BTC is managed by Circle. It is going to launch on Ethereum and onto their own blockchain, Arc. So this is one more token representing Bitcoin on blockchains. You could almost call it a kind of stablecoin, stable representation of Bitcoin, except obviously it is tied to Bitcoin, not to the dollar. In practice, Circle will custody the Bitcoin that user deposit, and in return will issue CIR BTC on Ethereum and Arc. The idea that is to plug that token into DeFi, into lending, into Aave, into smart contracts. So overall, I think it's a good thing for BTC because it adds yet another credible tokenized Bitcoin option. People had become increasingly worried about WBTC because Justin Sen had, in a way or another, come to be seen as having too much influence around the Bitcoin wrapper. Coinbase then launched its own token, the CBBTC, not long after the Justin Sen issue, and now we have another one. What's funny is that Coinbase and Circle now find themselves competing directly in this market. They each have their own token tied to Bitcoin, where they are also working together with the USDC, and Coinbase own a huge part of Circle. So yeah, I think Circle made the right move by launching this token. Clearly, if you trust USDC, then there is no real reason not to trust Circle's Bitcoin wrapper as well. Of course, it's never going to be as secure as holding Bitcoin yourself. But I still think what Circle just launched is an interesting thing. Now I want to see how this token gets deployed and which protocol end up integrating it before having the chance to use it. So yeah, that's what I wanted to cover today across the latest crypto news. I hope you enjoyed the content. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you very soon for the next one. All right, bye-bye.